Welcome back to the Dementia Collective, where we explore meaningful innovations and stories in dementia care. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Andrew Carissa. I'm a caregiver, researcher, and the founder of BlueBell Village. I started this podcast to share stories, tools, ideas, and support other caregivers walking along the dementia journey. I've been there myself. I know how isolating and overwhelming it can feel. Our goal is simple: to make dementia support more personal, more connected, because every family deserves to feel seen and supported. Today, we're joined by an innovator whose work touches on legacy, memory, and what it means to stay connected across generations. Aaron Tong is the founder and CEO of Eternum, a private and inheritable digital network that helps families hold on to what matters forever. A dad first, Aaron started Eternum to make sure his children and the generations who follow can safely access the voices, values, and memories that shape the family story. His North Star is simple: prevent loss, protect legacy, and connect generations in a space designed for families, not algorithms. Trained as a professional engineer and certified project management professional, Aaron brings system thinking, rigor, and long-term stewardship to Eternum's development. Private by design, secure by default, and inheritable on purpose, reinforcing his belief that technology should open doors and serve people, not the other way around. Under Aaron's leadership, Eternum is crafting an elegant, easy experience that keeps ownership where it belongs, with the families who create the memories. The goal isn't just to store content, it is to safeguard meaning, so nothing that matters is lost and everything that connects us lives on. Aaron, thank you for joining us. If you're ready, let's get on into it.
Sounds great. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for that wonderful introduction.
So can we start a little bit at the beginning, talk about what inspired you to create Eternum?
Yeah, actually, it came from my daughter. There was a day where I experienced a personal trauma, thought I never was going to go home. But that sparked the idea in my head, but it wasn't the trigger that made me start actually create Eternum. As family members age and start leaving me, I want to tell my daughter stories about our own history, about our family, about our ancestry, about what it was like for me to grow up overseas in Hong Kong. So different than how she grows up here. Back then, she was only about 4 or 5 years old. And when I was telling her these stories in place of bedtime stories, she asked me a question, which was, well, the first question said, "Why are you telling the stories?" She said, "Well, I want you to remember a bit about me and learn about, your ancestors." Then she said, "But Daddy, what if I don't remember these stories? What if I don't remember you when I grow up? Like I don't remember great grandfather." And I think that was the trigger. And I said, "You're right, baby. You're probably not going to remember me. And I think I need to fix that." And so I decided to build something that would fix it for us.
And so growing up, was there any sort of connection that led you to want to connect your generations? Is there anything that really brought you to that?
Well, growing up, there were times where I remember I asked my grandfather, which is my children's great grandfather. I did ask, what it was like for them to grow up in Hong Kong. He lived through World War II in Hong Kong during Japanese occupation. And so I asked him, what was it like? And there wasn't a lot of stories that he told me, but some of them are pretty funny. He basically said, yeah, there were these officers that lined us up from the British, military back then, and they gave us weapons, guns, and then this man just started yelling English, but none of us have any idea what he's talking about. And that was his vivid memory of how he started to become a soldier during the war. And I find these stories are lost over time. I was probably the only one in the family he ever told this to. Similarly, he said, I used to be a driver in a Humvee for one of the officers in the military during the time, and he remembers vividly that they had to escape, and when he was escaping, he had to take the wife of this officer that was probably 8-9 months pregnant at the time. And when they were escaping, and he was driving, the wife was sitting next to him at the front there was bouncing along the road and fell out of the car. And he went and grabbed her just in time to pull her back in before she fell all the way out. And that was another experience that he had. Um, that again, I don't think anybody knew. And I think these are stories that are interesting to know about our ancestors, and that has always been an interest to me to learn about, what other things do we not know about the lives of those that have brought us to where we are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had Karen Murdoch on the show a while ago, and her idea really supports the notion that everyone has a story. How well do we actually know the story of those before us? So how do we hear those stories from our loved one in their own perspective instead of us adapting it or changing it based on our perception of what they would say? Let's record and have them tell it. So I think this is a logical extension of that so that we can ensure that this remains going forward.
Absolutely. And one thing, Andy, I'd bring up for us, it's not about the content creation aspect of it. It's obviously it's about the capturing of the stories. But when I designed Eternum, the whole point isn't just to record the stories of individuals, because a person can go through any system to create any kind of content it like. There is AI avatars nowadays that you can create a persona of yourself. There are many different mediums to create imagery. We can even use our artificial intelligence to reanimate old pictures, right? Still pictures, and make them into an actual video of what it would like. Kind of like Harry Potter, for example, an image that moves. But one of the things that I found most challenging when I started this journey is to understand where to store all these. Eternum isn't about what you're putting in specifically, or just what you're putting in. It's about where you store these memories, these highly important, precious moments that we spend time and money to live and create. And where do we put them? And to make sure they get passed on to those that we want it to get. No, not stuffed in a drive, not stuffed in a box, not stuffed in just social media, but be able to actually pass it on with meaning and understanding to our next generations, so that they can continue to pass this knowledge on into the future. That's what the system is really built for.
So in your slogan, the North Star you talk about, to prevent loss, protect legacy, and connect generations. What do you mean by loss? What sort of loss are you talking about?
There are many types of loss that we experience, and throughout the journey, when we designed Eternum, we understood that loss means different things to many different people. And for us, sometimes losing may be a very physical thing, such as I lost my pet, or I lost this very important picture, or for maybe in the case of dementia, I lost a lot of memories. I lost a part of my life. I lost something that I would never be able to get back. And that's where sadness comes in. And the emotion sadness that we experience based on our research is, you experience sadness when you encountered something, a loss where you cannot get back. And that is different for everybody, what that looks like. And Eternum is designed so that we can maybe not mitigate all losses, but at least prevent that permanent loss if we can somehow capture it in some way and store it and pass it on. It's about permanence. It's about security. It's about taking a picture, taking a video, taking a word that this thing had existed and will continue to, so long as somebody encounters this on Eternum in the family and find out about it, the memory of it will not disappear, as it will be continued to be passed on. And that's the way we feel the best way to prevent loss of any nature that humans would encounter.
If we can just take a step back, because I think we're really diving into what it is, um, but I think part of the value is how you got here, right? For a lot of the time, it's what made us get here. How do we navigate? You talk about this idea of um, sometimes the loss is finite, and we can't change it, so we have to engineer and design solutions to get there. Um, what things in your background really equipped you to be able to bring this technology forward?
Well, I think it has to do with life experience. I'm not a developer by any means. For me, I come from more of the corporate world. I'm a creator by background as my mechanical engineer. I've always created solutions for clients, but they're more of a mechanical means, more of a design aspect that we implement in the real world rather than the digital world. So throughout the years, I've always looked into designing business solutions for targeting specific challenges in the world, more social problems that we encounter. And it just so happens that this is a much more personal challenge that I've encountered myself. And so using the same methodology, I would say, or inherent methods that I use to solve solutions for either my clients or the businesses that I've built, I've come up with the solution for Eternum. Really is to really figure out what the problem is, dive deep into it, and then take a look at what other people have as challenges that may be similar to me, or edge cases or on the fringes about it, and they kind of bring them all together and look at the holistic way of saying, okay, maybe there's something here that we can do to solve all of these problems. If not, then maybe most of them. And that's kind of how I started it personally. I don't know if that answers your question, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, coming in from an engineering perspective, right? We have this idea that one, that we can build anything, right? I mean, we tend to have this perception. And two, that any problem is solvable. So how are you ensuring that this technology is adaptable and solvable for the real needs that people have? What's the process that you're kind of going through?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. I'll be honest. There was a time 2 years ago when I designed this platform. Um, and put all the functions and functionalities together. And there's a huge AI part to it. And I had to go back and check myself and said, part of this could be completely phantasmal. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually going to work. I am not in the digital development world. So I had to go and talk to people in the development world. I had to go and talk to the potential customers that needed to solve the problem, whether it actually solves the problem. I I actually went on using AI, ChatGPT, for example, and I asked, if, you know, based on what we're trying to do, don't gaslight me and tell me honestly, is the technology implemented, can be implemented? And it says, yeah, it can, right? And we have to do this multiple times every time we iterate just to check based off of, excuse me, based off the information that you currently have, whatever AI that I'm using at the time, is this doable? Checking in with humans, real life humans, so natural intelligence values is the checks and balances that we have every time we iterate to understand whether it's actually doable. And then after that, it's a matter of going through the process step by step to understanding just, for Eternum, if we actually explore the technologies that's currently available in order to build it. We're not reinventing any kind of wheel that is extraordinary. I mean, the algorithm we design could be said proprietary and unique, but everything else is based off of existing technology. So all of that added together means that it's it's highly probable to achieve. Truth is, we're nearly there. We're launching our product soon this year, and so by the time this podcast is out, our product would already be on the streets.
Interesting. You told me before about a uh, part of your origin was a, let's say, unplanned flight experience. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that was the start of the idea. So I was on a business trip up into northern, somewhere in northern BC, and I've been going to taking that flight into there several times already. So it's not unknown territory to me. But one day we had a delay. There was a storm, and it was delayed for 2 to 3 hours already. And at that time, they finally allowed us to get on the flight. And when I got on the flight, I remember very, very vividly that the captain went on the speakers and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry the flight has been delayed. We're finally ready to go. It's going to be a bumpy ride. There's going to be some turbulence as it is. The storm is still there, but we're going to do our best to make it." Now, at that time, I was like, what do you mean by do your best to make it? You can either do it or you don't. Uh, And so that caught on to me. I thought it was just maybe a tongue-in-cheek way of just saying, we're gonna go. As we're taxiing off, it was a bumpy ride, but nothing too crazy until we got to the other side where we're landing. And how the airstrip was designed is that you have to circle down in a tight. The plane has to bank very tightly in order to circle down like a funnel in order to reach the low enough altitude in order to make a straight landing. And during that time, when we're doing that funneling, partway through, we lost our center of gravity. It was as if we couldn't tell whether we were right side up or upside down. It felt like we were hanging with our heads towards the ground. And so we looked out the window, or at least I looked out the window, and I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. Couldn't see where the landing strip was. There were normally lights and everything, and the storm was too great. And I wanted a comfort, and so the single comfort that we can get, we can turn to is the flight attendant. So I was sitting at the front back then. I remember looking at the flight attendant. I turned to her. I was expecting something like, hey, don't worry about it. It's all good. But no, when I looked at her, she looked terrified. She was gripping her seatbelt. Her face, her eyes is just screaming to me as that this is not a normal sensation that she's feeling. And that absolutely she's still feeling the same way I am during that time. And that was a time where I thought, man, if she feels that way, I probably might not make it home. This is not a normal situation. And it was really at the time that I had a few minutes to me staring death in the face and said, if I'm to go, what do I do? Right. I don't think a lot of people have that experience, is that you have a few minutes to yourself where you don't know whether you're going to live or die, but you really thought you were going to go and really think about life that way. And to me, they do say that the regrets come before you die. And the biggest regret I had was my children at the time wouldn't remember me. They would have been way too young. Um, my family, none of them would remember who I was, what I represented, what my value was, because all I left behind would have been my estate, would have been life insurance, would have been, the financial instruments that we've set up. But we would have never prepared ourselves to pass on an essence of who we are as a person. No stories, no memories, no values, no lessons. And even if we wanted to, with kids so young, they're never going to be able to absorb that at the time. And so I struggled to think, what do I do? And I actually took my phone out. I started writing messages on my phone. It wouldn't send at that time due to where we are. But I was hoping that if there was a crash and the phone does survive, that they may by chance encounter these notes that I've left before, stating things like, I love you. Here's some things I want to remember about. I wish I was there, and all of that. That was my experience.
Yeah, oftentimes I think it's those profound existential situations that really drive meaningful innovation, especially in this space and this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I would have ever really thought about that problem if I'd ever really encountered this, which you could say is a challenge for people, right? There's a reason why most people don't have wills and estates pre-planned or even have them updated, right? 60 to 70% of the people don't actually have a will planned out for their family, despite the fact that they might need one. Especially when you have children, when you have estates, multiple estates everywhere, or you have a large family, or even if you live by yourself, we've learned that having a will makes a big difference in terms of things like the power of attorney and things like that. So it's because we don't think about it, because we don't like to think about death and what it's like to die. But I think it would be a derelict of our responsibilities, probably mostly as parents, to not have that prepared for our children, because we just never know what happens.
Yeah. If we can shift a little bit now to talk and look at this from a dementia caregiving lens, how does your tool support individuals living with dementia or, those caring for them?
Absolutely. So very early on when we designed Eternum, we've done a lot of research in terms of the mental health space, in terms of how memory works within the human brain. And a lot of research that we read, the research papers, indicates that having the activities of using the brain to remember have profound effects in terms of making our brains healthier, stronger. We're not by any means a health researcher or any of this that we know has been clinically tested, but it does make us wonder if Eternum is designed in a way where we use it to preserve memories and allow, and the activity of preserving that memory literally requires someone to sit and talk and sit and remember, look at pictures and recall back. And I've done it myself where I sit and go rebuild the life of, say, my dog and say, when did we start? When was the first time I see him? And memories surface as I create these and record these memories, new memories, sorry, not new memories, but memories of things that I have forgotten would surface. And that's how our brain works. It's like as if there's a rope and you just keep pulling and dragging and more things start surfacing than we realize as I go on and rebuild that legacy of just my pet. I didn't even go on to build legacies of my grandparents or my own parents. And imagine all the memories we have of our own children as we start recording and remembering back to times when they were younger. What words did they used to say? How did they sound those words? And just going through the activity of that memory lane will drag on more memories coming out. I'm not sure how that would affect a dementia patient, for example, in terms of the medical side clinically. But I believe there is just that activity alone may have profound implications as to how it could trigger their develop or their recovery on their from the mental side on their brain. But what's really more important for us is actually not just the support for the dementia patients, it's really for the families that are impacted by those dementia patients. As an example, one research we've looked at has to do with the activity of taking as a caretaker for those with dementia, or even those that may not necessarily be debilitated by dementia, but other debilitations that they need to that hot family caretakers need to assist their elders in. Oftentimes, there's a lot of stress and friction when it comes to every single day needing not just to manage their own family, their own lives, but also to take a lot of their efforts to care for patients, especially those with dementia. And one research indicated that just by taking the activity or together, a joint activity between the caretaker, or sorry, the caregiver and the caretaker, to undergo a legacy preservation activity, whether through scrapbooking, whether through going down and sorting through pictures, old pictures, and talking about the old memories, resurfaces that empathy through the remembrance. And oftentimes it would say, yeah, I remember this was what life was like. This was when we were younger and how my mom or my grandma or my grandpa had taken care of me. And just that activity alone, it does not alleviate the stress and the burden of what they need to do as a caregiver, but the empathy alone makes it less hard for them to go back and take on that burden because it's a job, at least a responsibility that they were going to take on anyways. So it has a lot to do with the mental and spiritual support of those caregivers during the time just by remembering. So we hope that Eternum being a system that would capture and record these memories would be an activity that they could do together. And just by going back into memory lane in a convenient system like this would allow them to rebuild that empathy over time as well.
So it sounds like this is easier to do early on in the dementia journey rather than later on when it becomes more acute. Because when it's more acute, it's harder to really bring some of these memories forward and for some of those dots to be connected. So it seems like this is something families should be probably considering starting before it's too far to get all that insight in.
Absolutely, Andy, you're right. I think I would dare say there's two sides to this. I mean, the first for sure it would be early on. Eternum is designed to be used as an everyday device or everyday application. So you would go and record particularly the moments that matter to people most, specific core memories that you encounter in life. You don't just want to put it on social media and forget about it. Things like that you would capture in the essence of the platform as a memory. And just by going through that journey, you would already have a lot of memories over time. But in the case of dementia, for example, I would imagine I would sit with a dementia patient and early on with when they've been diagnosed to really start drawing those memories and life stories from them to be recaptured. One thing I believe it would do is that it does alleviate the anxiety of the dementia patient in the way that they know that the things that they may forget, the things that they will, that the family may never know, is being recorded so that it wouldn't be lost, so it wouldn't be forgotten. An essence of them will still remain. Another is for the family as well to feel less burden that what are the things that we may have forgotten? What are the things that we will never know? It also makes them feel that they are doing something worthwhile to help their loved ones undergoing this such a debilitating disease, to alleviate those maybe at least a little part of their mental stress of undergoing that trauma over time. I believe these activities are extremely worthwhile. We also talk about after, when say when the patient is in the acute stage, that's where these memories come back to support the families in remembering what this person was like. Because I've I've seen family members that have gone through dementia, and they are not the same person that you would remember before they've gone through and reached the acute stage. They're a shadow of what you physically can see from what they were like, and having these memories of what they were as a contrast for us to remember by, I think brings a lot more humanity and empathy back to everyday life when taking care of these patients.
So, how would this differ in practice from Facebook legacy contacts that rolled out, whatever, 5, 7 years ago, maybe? I don't know anyone that's used it specifically, but I know like myself, my wife, my sister, all of us have each other as legacy contacts if something happens for our data, our photos, or whatever else is saved in legacy contacts. So, can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I mean, the first stage is the recording of the memory and what it does to help families and ourselves. But where we store it is actually very important. That's why we designed Eternum for the first place. If you do take your memories, maybe in the form of either recordings, writings, videos, or photos, and you can store them in any digital cloud service you would like, you can put them on, for example, like you say, Facebook. The challenge with that is in social media, they're all very transient. Their device is not designed for long-term keeping of information. They're more designed for you to disseminate particular information so people will see it. It's not for legacy preservation. You won't be able to go back, for example, and re-download everything in the original contents of what you've uploaded as immaculately as you have first onto Facebook. In fact, it would we've tried and we were not able to do it. What you get back is most of the usage information that you had, your activity logs and information like that. So in that respect, even if you have someone that is assigned as an emergency contact or a legacy contact, they would get access to your account, but they would not be able to download that information back and take it with them as an archive legacy, as the pictures as it was, as the videos as it was. You must continue to use Facebook as a social media and just go and take a look at the contents and manage that contents for uh, the user, the deceased user. Secondly, is about privacy. When someone is passed with that or assigned as a legacy contact, most often you will get access to all of the information that they have as if they were the user. There's no screening, there's no segregation as to who gets access to what memories. Maybe certain things you don't want particular people to see, but you have no choice because they have now access to the whole account. You might say that doesn't matter, I'm already passed on, but there are certain memories that people do care about um, because it leaves an impression as to who they are. The last problem we also encountered is that you must identify a specific person to take over the account. While Eternum is designed to automate that inheritance process, that can pass on this information or the account access or the specific memory access to individuals that may join the family in the future that you don't know now. For example, children that may come, grandchildren, and generations after that join the family that fit the specific automated conditions that you preset in Eternum will also grant them access to those memories that you've recorded, that you wanted them to see in the future. It could be messages, it could be videos, it could be whatever you like. Social media doesn't have that functionality because they're not purposefully designed for it. Some people always also ask, can I put it on Google Drive? Of course you can. It's a file system, but it also has the same issues where you won't be able to designate someone to pass on automated as an inheritance. You have to designate somebody now to manage it. What happens if they do not pass this information on? Then it becomes lost. This is the same for picture albums like Apple Photos, as an example. But there's an added challenge with these systems is because they do not allow the leaving of contextual information, basically saying you leave a picture behind, but nobody understands what that picture is. Who is in that picture? You can't write anything particular about it. And there's no collaboration where people can't come together and say, hey, I remember this picture, right? This is what I remember about it. Eternum is designed purposefully. So as an example, I can create a picture, a memory of my grandfather. And I would say, my grandfather raised me, and I remember he loved raising birds, actually. And then my aunt can come in and say, I remember this. And she would link her memory to mine and say, these are some of the pictures that you don't have that I managed to find of the birds when he was raising those birds and what they look like. And so this collaborative method, in order to help rebuild ancestry, is one of the unique functions of Eternum that separates us apart from both social media and just conventional cloud storage systems.
So caregivers are oftentimes overworked. They're doing way too many things. Dr. Sharon Anderson was on here a while ago talking about the idea that double duty caregivers are becoming more and more prevalent, where medical practitioners are also having to go home and be caregivers, so they serve two caregiving roles. How do you approach this tool? In your comment earlier that this is meant to be a daily thing to do. So how would you approach it where this isn't just one more thing that they have to do? Because if they already have to care for people in their job, then come home, care for them, then maybe have to go deal with their kids, then maybe they have to do other things, and then it just feels like one more thing they have to do. How would you approach it so it doesn't feel like a challenge or a task or just, oh, it's another thing I have to do? How would you address that?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. And I think I should definitely shed some light into this. Eternum isn't specifically a task for us to need to achieve on a daily basis. It's not like you need to walk 10,000 steps a day because somebody came up with a 10,000 steps number, right? In order to be healthy. That's not the design of Eternum. Design of Eternum is it's actually the other way around. And there are two aspects to it. One is that we actually don't want people to be on the platform continually like you would on a conventional social media, because there are no advertisements on there for us to capture any revenue on. The whole purpose is to be private. It's to be families manage their own content. So what does that mean? It means we don't want people to sit on Eternum and scrolling through memories continually every day. The whole point is to leave something purposeful when you actually encounter them in life. There are times where people don't actually come on the platform for an entire month, but they encounter a situation in life where they go, this is something important. This is a moment that matters. It's not just something I just post and let it go. It's something I wanted to be remembered. An example could be, my kid just said the darndest things that I want him to remember down the road. Or we just had a lovely event with the grandparents, and the kids had a lot of fun after not being able to see each other for 6 months because they just came back from across the ocean, and it was just beautiful seeing them come together in that moment. And these are the moments that you would capture on Eternum at the time you want it. And these are the memories that actually have meaning back to you. And what we find is that if it's a moment that matters to you, people that look at these from outside, for example, when your kids grow up to look at it, or when your family take a look at these memories, that's when they learn about who you are based off of what you found it important to leave on Eternum. It shapes the perspective and understanding of you as an individual. So you don't have to do it every day. It's a matter of when you figure that it's important for you. That's when you have a place, a sanctuary to leave it behind, knowing that it will be passed on and it won't be forgotten, and it is meaningful to you and the family that you're with. And so how does that help the caregivers, for example, is that as time progresses if they use this platform, which is designed very intuitively, and all you have to do is really go, click, upload, write, store. That's it. It's no more complex than that, no more different than what you would do on any conventional social media or cloud storage system. It's that simple to use using your mobile device. And from there, when time comes where you're stressed, you got a few minutes, you need that break. Rather than go through, say, doom scrolling through social media content that may give you more anxiety or engage in other activities when you're sitting down quietly, you could pull up Eternum and take a look back as to what memories you've had, what recent memories your family has recorded that is important to them. And that might bring you back to the state of empathy and compassion for your own family, for what it's like to be in a family and to be connected, and that you're not alone, that this family is yours and it is together. And we hope that this experience will give both spiritual and mental well being to people, especially at times where they are extremely stressed and highly overworked.
Is there going to be some way, or is there any consideration of a way to take what's on Facebook or Instagram or one of these other platforms and import that in as kind of a starting point? The reason I say it is because I was with some elders this weekend and they were scrolling through their Facebook and showing me what's in there and their family and who their family knows, this whole thing. And I just think there could be a lot of value in, not starting from scratch and bringing in stuff that could help frame up that was already in other platforms as well.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's something we are exploring in order to use, say, API calls or other technologies in order to pull that data, assuming that the user will grant access to it. But based off our current research, it doesn't seem like it's possible. And there's various reasons for it, because these services do not want users to leave their platforms. So they do not necessarily want you to pull all their data that you have on there and run with it. That in itself is a problem, because why would you want to put all those things that you find precious in a service that would lock it up and say you can't get it back? You can't take it and go. You should have full autonomy with the information that you yourself has preserved. What they let you is to wipe away the information, but that doesn't mean they'll let you take it and use it as the way you want. You have to individually go and download each image back. And a lifetime of memories would be impossible for you to go and retrieve it one click at a time. And so that in itself for us is already a red flag. Why can't we give you the information and take it as we like, right? Like we would a cloud storage device, right? And so Eternum is designed as, you could say, a very basic way of saying it is, you take a cloud storage system like Google Drive, you take the social aspect of Facebook, Instagram, and you merge them together and it becomes one system. We wrap that in a privacy closed system where only families can access your particular family tree. And we have automated functions that allow you to pass on all this information that you own down to future generations. And if you want to go and download all the information back and run with it, you can do so. That's not an issue, because we believe in privacy and we believe in data sovereignty, and we believe that data is yours and you should be able to do that in an archival system like ours.
You're actually led into my next question there. So you were born in Hong Kong, right?
That's right.
So how do you address privacy concerns for families that are across multiple countries or regions? So let's talk about Canada, and if you have a loved one in, I don't know, say Russia. I would suspect that Russia privacy laws are wildly different than here. So
Absolutely.
how would that be addressed? Because that's probably an important
That is a
piece.
very important piece. And so while we're building the platform, we're consulting legal in terms of regulatory compliance for everything that has to do with privacy and data protection. So we have to follow the laws of that particular region, as an example. So because of that aspect, Eternum now is only right now available in Canada and the US, because we simply don't have the capacity to manage the privacy regulations and the breaching of that when it comes to cross-country, especially in countries that have vastly different privacy laws than what we experience here in North America. And so it is a system that we wanted to bridge, a gap that we wanted to do. But at the very onset at this moment, the biggest the the way to do it is really for the individuals from other countries to log into our system and use our system where it's based and housed here, where all the data is and everything is housed here. And that's the only way that we could do it. I mean, based off of transfer and latency and all that, it's not the best way of managing it, but we do not allow that information to leave our servers and data centers that are currently here in North America in order for us to keep that data here where we know that the laws are aligned with the vision of what Eternum is built.
Have you heard any stories or feedback or perspective from folks about the value that Eternum can bring or how this can support caregivers in what they're doing?
Absolutely. One case as an example is someone that have terminal illness, that they have a timeline that was specified by a medical professional. And the amount of profound stress and anxiety, not just on the patient at the time, but also with the family members is immense. And during that time, it's no different than giving a timeline to a dementia patient that is reaching that acute stage. By using this system, they're able to capture the memories of not just the patients, but also of what everybody else in their lives think about this patient and create a collage of that and legacy, a profile that would capture the essence of who this person is. Sometimes sitting there with your hands tied, not doing anything, is one of the most stressful moments, especially when you see your loved one suffering. Eternum being there to actually have something for these family members to do makes them feel, even if it's a little bit, that they are helping the best they can to alleviate not just the suffering of the patient, but themselves and the rest of the family. And I think that is one of the biggest values that Eternum can do. Even just knowing that these memories are not going to be gone. Because what are we without our memories? What are we without people remembering us? And that's the essence of what Eternum is to capture that, to protect it, and to pass them on.
In your own family, so say your parents, aunts, uncles, maybe grandparents, your kids, how has Eternum been received? Are you guys using it, talking about it? And has it changed the way that you're thinking about your family's legacy?
That's a great question. While the platform is being developed, we have been using it for testing internally to test how it works, what functions we need, what things are changed. So we have been using it internally, but not prolifically in terms of throwing everything on there at this stage. That is because the system front end and the back end right now is being merged together. So it's not as intuitive as it would become to launch later this year. So we're sparingly using the system. But what we did find is a few interesting things. One is that we think a lot more about how important the current moment we experience in life is right now. And what does that mean, whether that is particularly important as a memory or not? And if it is, and we encounter it, it becomes more a perception change where we're like, ooh, I need to write this down because now I have a place to store it. In the past, it would be, you know what? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, that's so cute. But now instead we go, I need to prepare for Eternum. I need to prepare because I want to write it down and record it so I can put it on Eternum. Because now I have a place to store it, right? Even as an example, my kids, they come back from camp or school. There's hundreds of artwork over the last few years that they have. It's all over the house. And I remember, we used to store everything we can, but it comes a time when you have about 10 boxes of them, you start wondering whether you should still store them, right? And so now, instead of feeling guilty throwing some of these artwork away, we would take pictures of them and write something about them in preparation of storing them in Eternum so that we can then toss some of these art away. While a lot of the ones that we really love we'd keep, or some of these that we can throw away, but we feel less guilty doing it because we know that the memory is still preserved and that they can go back. And I think it would be a beautiful moment where our children grow up, they are old enough to log into Eternum, and then go back and look at, well, these are all the art that I did in grade 1, kindergarten, grade 2. And what was it? What did I make this? I don't even know what this is. But then my mom or my dad had written that this is actually your first little volcano that looks like a cup, stuff like that.
My parents right now are going through the or my mom are going through the process of cleaning out the basement and purging. And every week when I stop by with the wife and kids, there's always new things that they show. Look what Andy did here. Look at this book Andy made when he was in grade whatever. Look at these things. And it's tangibly, it's an interesting way to show them what I was thinking about, what was going through my mind, how we process things. I think that's what the value could be here for the families. The wife right now goes the last 2 or 3 weeks, things that she's read from various years have said I'm going to live in Florida when I'm an adult. I don't live in Florida, but now she wants to live in Florida. So I think that being able to bring these kind of things in really can demonstrate where our minds were at, where our emotions were at fixed points in time.
Yeah, that's a very deep insight, Andy. That's exactly it. Because we always live in the current moment. We're never living in the future. We're never living in the past. It's always at this time. And Eternum does allow us to record a part of ourselves this way, right? It's we were cleaning our basement too, and there are a lot of things that we want to get rid of, that we take pictures of, especially those, when you have children growing up, your basement is filled with stuff because we have the privilege of having a basement. At that time, when we're getting rid of them, we take pictures of them. But one of the things I spoke with Karen previously as well, and one of the things we talked about is regarding downsizing. Regarding those that are aging and seniors, they're downsizing to a different home from the one that they have, and there are a lot of things that they have to discard, and a lot of memories and emotions tied to it, and it becomes really emotional for them to get rid of something. Even for me, just thinking back, if I have to leave the house that I'm in, where my children is raised, there's a lot of emotional attachment to it. Having the ability to say record them together on a device like Eternum and say it's never truly 100% gone. You may not have it physically because you can't keep this giant dining table, for example, and you must pass this to someone else that may be able to take good care of it and make good use of it. But the memory of you having here is not just now for you to remember, is that for you, me, your grandchildren, and your grandchildren's children, that you did once own this piece and what it meant to you. And I believe that is an activity that would greatly relieve the seniors and the family from needing to lose. When we talk about loss, is to lose something, is that it will never be truly gone with Eternum.
Do you have any examples of how this can support, say, adult children or spouses in navigating the emotional toll of caregiving?
Yes. Let me think here. So the emotional toll of them being the caregiver, you mean? Is that what it is?
Yes. Or yes, them being caregiver or having to reconcile with the complex emotions that come in navigating with that person or things to that effect.
Yeah. So, I think every one of them, I don't know if this is going to answer your question, Andy, but all of us come with a bit of emotional or psychological baggage from whatever affected us when we were childhoods, right? Our parents are not perfect. We are not perfect beings in any means. And in that sense, we're also perfect the way we are. And so it would always have effects in us growing up and how it shapes us as a person. But sometimes, as for me and my family, become very cognizant of what it is like when we take care of our children and how we interact with them. And so part of these moments with Eternum now in our mind, we think, you know, is this something I want to write about on Eternum? Is this something, what would my children think when they come back and take a look at this memory? How will it shape them at the time when they're 18, when they're 25, when they're 30, coming back to look at this memory? Because they can interpret it differently. And it's not just shaping them now while they're still young, but this memory on Eternum can continually shape them in the future. For example, we would write things more positive, such as, this is a memory of my son. He was walking down the hallway by himself, with his backpack on. If you leave it in any other system, even if my son gets that picture, he wouldn't know what it's about. But in Eternum, I would write in that memory of that picture and say, this was the first time you let go of my hand when you were in junior kindergarten. And you were very scared at the time, but you were brave enough to do it because you wanted to do it and do what you think was right. And I was very proud of you because you were willing to take that step, even though you were very scared. And I think this memory, we can't tell how it would shape them in the future, but we hope that as parents, when he comes back and encounter it, it would give him strength at the time where maybe it gets tough. Maybe he's encountered a situation of unknown or fear and said, I remember that time and that's what my dad had thought about me. And I think I'm able to take that step and try it out. That's what we hope would be able to do for people growing up and alleviate that kind of stress that they may have, or at least support them in the future.
It sounds to me that there's a lot of value for long-term value for caregivers with Eternum. How are you specifically addressing it to make it easy to operate? I know that the feedback we got with Connect early on was the least amount of clicks possible for it to, and then have less screens, big font, these sort of things. They're just simple to say, harder to make work. So how are you addressing that in the design of Eternum?
Absolutely. In fact, our product designer has issued a low fidelity prototype of the platform early on, and we received about over 800 comments back just from the test itself. It was incredible. Um, and even 100 of them were critical information that we could use in improving the design. And another 100 of them are things that are not critical needed, but that would be very worthwhile in doing, whether right now or down the road. And some of them absolutely addresses the simplicity of what it needs to be in order to make it easier for people to use. And so we've taken all that feedback and we built it into the platform in the way that people would like to see using it. Some examples becomes, as you said, larger icons, more visually based, making it easier to navigate, right? Simplify the process. Things that are less used that are still available as a function would be a little harder to get, but most of the day-to-day stuff that people would use would be at the forefront, for example, and make it, very intuitive to access. The second way we designed it is that we make it very similar to, or as similar as we can, to existing systems that people are used to. For example, if you're creating a memory, it'll be shaped like what you would expect a post to look like in social media, because everybody's used to it. And a lot of seniors that we speak with are more familiar with, say, Facebook and Meta, and how the posts are done and how they will upload posts and interact with posts. And so these, taking elements from that and build it into the system in terms of balancing what's new, what's intuitive, and what's simple, and what is just what people are used to, is how we shaped Eternum. And so we're now in the next stage of a development where we are completing its high fidelity version of it, where we will then take that high fidelity and merge it with the back end system that we built with this for testing. And once those two are merged together, then you'll have the full product available.
Is there any way for folks now to reach out and join and be on kind of the early adopter, let's call it, place for Eternum?
Absolutely. So our platform is slated to launch this November. And so we'll be releasing it to the first wave of early adopters to try out the platform and give us feedback and use it the way any user would use. It's very well fully developed by that stage in terms of the functions and the functionalities. So everyone can reach us at www.eternumproject.com. That's AETERNUM. And then project, project.com. There's a sign up form that you can please register your emails. At that time, our system will auto distribute access to the platform when it's launched.
So Aaron, let me ask you this. How do you want to be remembered?
Good question. For me, I want to be remembered as a father. I think for me, father comes first than anything else, despite, me wanting to create things, me wanting to do that. After I have children, what shapes me is how my children see me as a person, as a dad. And I think everything I do now, whether it's the business of building Eternum, whether it's the functionalities I built into it and design into it, whether it's how I interact with my family and the people out there, it's me as a dad, less so of Aaron as a businessman or Aaron as an engineer or Aaron as a project manager. Is just a dad, and the values that I have of what it means to be a father is I believe family comes first in order to to have a strong family, we must have a strong personal foundation, both mentally, spiritually, and physically, in order to carry that family and be part of that family and to be there with our children. Doesn't mean, again, we're perfect, but in and of itself is where we will always be able to continue to grow and be an inspiration to our children to for them themselves to grow as they should. And for me, children, that's the only job, is to grow and have fun and to live life. So yeah, that's what I want to be remembered by or as.
That's the most important thing is my kids. Everything else can be taken away. But as long as I have the kids and we're instilling good morals and ethics and spending time with them and passing these stories and information on, that's what matters, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's where we're very similar in that aspect. And really great speaking with you, Andy, on this.
Absolutely. So I asked this to everyone, Aaron. So one last question for you. It would be, if you had one parting message or idea or thing you would want to tell the listeners, what would that be?
Ooh, that sounds like something I ought to leave on Eternum. I would say, you know what? Life can be tough. Life can be tough at times, but you're never alone. You know, similar to Andy, what you're doing for BlueBell and what we're doing for Eternum. But there are people out there that experience the same hardships that everybody else has, and we are here to build something to help. It may not be exactly for every single situation, but I'm sure there's enough people out there that has come up with a solution or come up with a something, or even just a shoulder to lean on, or an ear to listen out the things you say to make a difference. No one's ever truly alone in that aspect, and so it's a matter of reaching out and having the courage to tell people that, hey, I need a bit of help.
Very true. Well, Aaron, thank you for joining us today and reminding us that holding on to what matters doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be intentional. Your work is helping families preserve connection, even in the face of memory loss. To our listeners, thank you for being here. If today's conversation resonated with you, follow the Dementia Collective wherever you get your podcasts and share this episode with someone who you think might benefit. And if you'd like to help us grow this movement, please consider becoming a member of the Village on Patreon. Among other benefits, you'll gain early access to every episode, plus the satisfaction of helping powerful voices like Aaron's reach more caregivers around the world. And finally, if you're on your own caregiving journey, remember, you are not alone. We're here at BlueBell to help connect you with the supports and resources that truly fit your family's unique needs. Until next time, you are strong, you are not alone, and you're doing something that matters more than you know. Thank you.